Hey, it's Alex Williams of the New Stack here at DockerCon in Seattle, Washington, here with Philip Lombardi and Austin Gunter of Datawire. Hey, guys.
Hey, how's it going,
Alex?
So you guys talk a lot about microservices practitioners, and it seems like a early community. Is it, or is it not, or what's happening now to that community as there is more discussion on the topics related to microservices?
It's a really good question. In the conversations with customers that we've had, we've found that there's a handful of companies like the Ubers and the Netflixes and the Googles of the world who have had the problems around microservices and also had the resources to build infrastructure around them. And the problems usually revolve around how can you speed up your engineering velocity. There's a really great blog post by Phil Calgado, who was at SoundCloud. He's at DigitalOcean now, talking about how their deploy time from writing code to deploying a new feature was like 65 days, but only 11 of those were actually writing code, and the rest of it was queuing things up. So companies that are thinking about adopting microservices, there's a lot of them, but not everybody has the resources like Google and Uber, et cetera, to actually build all of the infrastructure necessary to do that. So one of the big things that Datawire is working on right now is collecting that actual practical, real-world best practice advice from people who have actually adopted microservices and done it at scale. Cutting through some of the fluff content and getting to the how-tos from people who have actually done it. Because there's a lot of people who do want to adopt this technology, but may not have the resources and also may not know where to start.
Right. Phil?
Yeah, that sounds about pretty accurate to me. You know, I'm a developer, so when I think about microservices, it's figuring out how to make microservice development really easy. So that means basically giving people a toolkit that's easy to consume. And when you think developers, they want code. And so we're kind of thinking, developers don't want to think about how you scale and operate the actual infrastructure necessary to make microservice environment work. So we're kind of thinking, literally give them, one-line APIs that they can use to consume and figure out where all these microservices are living together.
So what is Datawire?
So, you want to take that? Sure. Datawire is basically building a cloud-based service discovery system right now so that developers can connect microservices together. The problem is usually, these developers decide to use this architecture and they need to figure out how to glue all their services together. So basically what Datawire is trying to solve here is making that really simple. We will host the service discovery component for them, run it for them, give them a UI so they can see all their microservices running in an environment, allow them to do versioning of those microservices, allow them to basically filter out what microservices they want other microservices to talk to based on tags and things like that. But the idea is make it really simple for them to get started.
Okay, and so tell us about the technology architecture underneath your service, this platform you're talking about.
Sure. So underneath this is the service discovery system is basically a real-time DNS that we've implemented using WebSockets. And the way it is basically services publish their endpoint information up to us, and then we broadcast it back down to other endpoints that are listening to that same WebSocket stream. And from there, they just assemble a map in the back, and when the person who is trying to connect to a web service, they specify a particular name, and we hand back a URL for them to connect to.
Why WebSockets?
We picked WebSockets because it was best of breed technology for doing what we wanted to do. We wanted to be able to connect also to, say, web browsers, and there's a native implementation for WebSockets in the browser, but we also wanted something that was just conceptually easy to work with, and WebSockets is pretty easy to work with.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of foundational infrastructure that you need to make microservices a successful architecture in your company. We're trying to solve that, building that toolkit, that low-level toolkit for them, so they don't have to go and figure out how to do it themselves. And then going back to kind of what Austin was saying earlier, building a community around that, so there's a reference architecture and also lots of guidance around how to do this correctly. We find right now is there's lots of ad hoc attempts at it, some more successful than others. Obviously the big companies that have successfully done it, like Netflix and Uber, they've done it at scale, they figured it out, but they have massive amounts of resources to put into it.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys very much for taking a minute. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.